Please, that's gone well. I've had 3 sleeping pads for the time that I've been wild camping. The Kilo Skier, the Nortent Torv and the Bestway. All 3 of them seem to be in that category of no one really knows how good they are. Some because they're not as well known because they've not been out for very long, even though they're from a reputable brand. Others because they're not from a particularly well-known brand. Others kind of a half well-known brand, but not in the sleeping pad world. I think these guys make like blow-up jacuzzis and stuff. So there's a lot of questions. If you look on Reddit and you look on other forums, people always asking questions about these 3. I don't know why I've ended up with these 3 particularly, but let's go through them and find out which one's the best. So the first thing we'll look at is the pack size, and the first thing I'll say is don't look at the website and read the pack size, because that is when it comes out of the factory. It's rolled up tighter than you'll ever tighten it again. The pack size that it says on the website is never accurate. For me, this is a way better idea of the size of the pack. It's been used, it's been rolled back up, and you've got an idea of what the real life pack size is. So you've got the Kilo Skier here, the Nortent here, and the Bestway there. Now, they're all about the same. The Torv has got a slightly bigger pack size, but that's because of the bag that it's in, but we'll come on to that in a second. The Bestway is just about the smallest, and the Kilo Skier is probably a smidge longer, basically for much of a muchness. I'm not going to give you the measurements. Some people get a tape measure out. You can see how big they are. I would say they're genuinely all about the same size. Bestway slightly smaller, Kilo Skier slightly longer, Nortent Torv somewhere in the middle. And to go even more sort of real life comparison, here's each one next to a 1 litre with 3/4 of a litre of juice in, Nalgene bottle. That's the Bestway next to it. Kilo Skier, let's put it the right way up. So you can see that one is slightly longer. And then the Torv. Not quite as long, but this one is slightly wider. Again, we'll come on to why in a second though. So let's come on to what comes in the packs. It would be a lot easier to do this with 2 sleeping pads. You wouldn't believe how often I've dropped one of the 3 trying to juggle it. So in the pack, the Nortent, this is why it looks slightly bigger. The pack itself is a dry bag. We'll open it and have a look at it in a second, but the inflation sack that it comes with, the pump sack, is all part of the carry sack. So that there is the inflation bag, the inflation sack, pump sack, and the sleeping pad in there as well. The Bestway comes with an inflation sack as well. It's pretty big. It's really thick, decent material actually. That comes in the pack. You can wrap it in there as well if you want to. I tend to use a flex tail pump, so I don't really take the pump sacks with me. Someone in there will probably say, oh, take one with you just in case your pump fails. If my pump fails, I could just blow it up by mouth if I needed to, because they're not full of mold, as Hayes Outdoors did prove on one of his videos. But yeah, that comes with a pump sack. Same again with the Kilos. Rather large pump sack as well. The valve on the end, they're all the same, little valve on the end. You connect that to the pad. One thing I would say is you don't need to fill this with air yourself. You see some people sort of going like really trying to get air in there. You just need a little blow and then scrunch it down and pump that down into the pump. You don't need to like put your lungs into that. They are really useful for pumping it up. It doesn't take particularly long, but because my flex tail pump is also a light as well, I just tend to take that with me and use that instead. So let's get them pumped up and see how long they take. I mean, I can tell you how long they're going to take. Well, I can't tell you the exact figure, but I can tell you this is going to be the fastest because it's the thinnest, it's the shallowest, and the Torv will take the longest because it's the thickest. They've all got the same sort of valve. You open sort of one, that opens where you would inflate it, and then open the second layer of the valve, and that would then just completely open the valve and deflate it. So that's the Bestway all pumped up. Took exactly 1 minute from starting the pump. Now, I haven't put an extra couple of breaths in here. As you can tell, I'm not the smallest guy. I tend to blow it up to what the pump blows it up with, and I put another couple of breaths in to give me a bit more support. The main difference with this one compared to the other 2 is it's a mummy pad. You can see it tapers towards the end a little bit. That does fit in some tents better. For example, the Hilleberg Solo narrows towards the feet end, as do a lot of tents. I'm not a fan of that myself. I would prefer to have for the extra size and weight, it's minimal, to have a wider area at the bottom of the pad for your feet, because I do shuffle around a little bit in the night. Just straight away with this one, it definitely sounds a bit crisp packety, because I think you can probably see on the camera, you can literally see the foil inside it. But let's put it down, let's see how comfy it is, and let's give this one a whirl. It's It's a bit draw me like one of your French girls, isn't it? So the Bestway is different to the others. The other two are more sort of similar. This is half the price of the other two and a little bit less, but is warmer apparently. I've got some notes here on my phone. So the R value of this is 7.3, which for 40 quid, what do you want? 40 quid on Amazon this was. 7.3, it's 183 by 63.5. I'm 192 centimetres tall, so I extend over this by 10 centimetres. It's 7.5 centimetres thick, and it's 647 grams. Now with these weight measurements, I don't know whether that includes the bag or not. It doesn't say on the website. It only mentions it once on one website, and that's the Nortent. It mentions the weight with the bag and without the bag. So the 647 grams for this, does it include the bag or not? Like the pump sack and the carry bag? I would have to assume it does, because you would assume that you would take the carry bag and the pump sack with you. But right, let's give it a quick test. So let's just move that. So I'm right at the top, and as you can see my feet are hanging off the edge. Honestly, it's comfy. The only thing is, with me being quite wide, as soon as I don't have my feet together, they just come off the edge of the pad. So I much prefer having a square pad, but look, it's comfy. One thing I can say with this one is you can almost feel the warmth. You can almost feel the warmth straight away when you lie on it. Not so much today, because it's a July day. 1st of July today? It's a 2nd of July today. It's a July day, so lying on, even if I just lay straight on the ground, you wouldn't really notice it being that cold. Whereas when I had this in February and I gave it a test outside, I felt like the warmth reflecting back immediately, which for a 40 quid pad, honestly, this has to go down as one of the best budget pads, surely. The only thing is, it is a bit crinkly. It feels a bit cheap, or well, it feels less premium than the other two. But again, it's 40 quid. It's got the dimples in it. If you've ever seen the OEX pads, you know, the flux pads, feels a little bit like those, and it's that type of pattern. Although I did have an OEX flux 4 or 5, whichever one, the blue one I think it is. I did have one of them as my first pad, and I took that back to OEX because I didn't think it was very comfy. This is way comfier than that in my opinion. So, I mean, I suppose I've got to do something and give it a comfort rating, haven't I? But it's fine, it's comfy enough, it'll get you through the night, no problem. If it is R7.3 as it says, the only thing I would say is you can see a visible area. I don't think it'd pick up on the camera, but you can see a visible area around the edge of the pad where the foil stops. I don't know if you can see that there. So you can see that the foil stops there, the insulation stops there. So there's this there's an inch or so of perimeter around the pad where you're not going to get any insulation. So if you're using this in winter, not only is it thinner at the bottom anyway, but you're sort of restricted again by where you might start feeling that cold coming through. If you're a bit of a smaller person, I don't think it'd be a problem, but because me being a bit of an engine, so to speak, yeah, but you seen that cut? It's bad, that, innit? I did that when I was picking my daughter up from school on a stick in a schoolyard. Do you see him in court? So yeah, comfy enough, but the other two do top it. But again, this is a budget option. I think the point of this is I am going to come away with a favourite, spoiler alert, but I think I also want to just sort of show that people are apprehensive about these brands, but they're fine, they work, or they do for me anyway, or Kilo Skier does on the third time round, which you'll see in a minute. Right then, let's go on to the next one. Right, time to pump up the Kilo Skier. Now I will just do a quick caveat with this one, because this is the one I've got the most use out of, and this is the one I've got the most experience with, probably 7 or 8 camps with this. However, this is the third one of these I've had. Now, this actually ends up being a good news story. So I've never heard of Kilo Skier, if I'm brutally honest, when I bought the first pad. A lot of people haven't, that's why you see the question on the forums a lot. Now, the first one that I bought worked first time. Second time I was on Winnets Pass in September, before I started recording videos actually, and it deflated in the night, and I was really, really cold. It taught me very, very quickly to take a closed cell foam pad on every single camp. Ever since then, I've always taken them on with me, and I'm really glad I do. However, I got in touch with Kilo Skier. To be fair to them, we're pretty good. They sent me a replacement out straight away. They went, yeah, no problem, we'll send you a replacement out. Replacement came out, and I went on another camp. The first time using that pad, I hadn't inflated it at home, which you should probably do really, that's my fault. Went on a camp, and it just wouldn't inflate. As soon as it inflated, well, I suppose it would inflate, but as soon as it inflated, it just completely deflated within 3 minutes. The air was coming out the valve at the top. Okay, so I got home, again, I had a terrible night's sleep. I did take a closed cell phone pad with me though, I learnt my lesson from the first time. Got back home, messaged Kilo Skier, which is through Facebook Messenger for customer service, which was actually pretty convenient in the end. Messaged them, and I said, look, this is the second one I've had now. It's now leaking through the valve. Can I just have a refund, please? These obviously aren't working for me. And they said, we're really sorry, we'll send you a refund, but also, can we send you a new version of the pad out? Because this one has got a different, they'd upgraded the valve system up here. So I said, you know what, if you're going to send me a refund and you're going to send me a pad out again, I might as well have another pad just to try it out. So they sent me another one out. It's really comfy, so I wanted to give it another try. And ever since then, this new one that they sent out, which was the third one, and I can tell you, I made a little mark on the top of the pack. I don't know if you can see that there, number 3, just so I didn't get them confused. This third one has been fine. I've used this, I don't know how many times, 8 or 9 times, 7 or 8, 9 times or something. And I've had this out in some of the worst camps I've done in terms of weather. Well, the winds have picked up and the snow has started. You'll see, like if you look down previous videos, the blizzard camps and the one in the snow, and it did okay. I'll come on to the temperature ratings in just a second. Sorry for that dog barking, by the way. Come on to the temperature ratings in just a second. So I did have a few problems with the Kilo Skier, but for a company that I'd never heard of and for a company that a lot of people have never heard of, the customer service was genuinely second to none. Messaged me back within an hour, sent me a replacement again, and gave me the refund and apologised, and we're, yeah, really, really good. So let's see how long it takes to get this one up. So the Kilo Skier is up now, and that was 1 minute 28. So only an extra 28 seconds, and it is substantially thicker than the Bestway as well. But there's something about the colour and the yellow that I really quite like, but I also do like the colour of the Nortent. Not that the colour has any bearing on a sleeping pad whatsoever, but 1 minute 28 for this bad boy up. Right, let's lie down and see what we think. Don't know why I've just sat down and started bouncing. That's a bit weird, isn't it? Right, let's get some stats for this bad boy. Kilo Skier. So I've just had a look on the website to note the stats down, and it says R5 now, or 5R, and or R value 5, whatever. When I bought this, I don't think it was R5. I would have to go back and check. I don't know how I would check, but I'm sure this was R4 something. Neville thinks I'm tapping for him here. It was R4, maybe 4.5. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was a 5, but I'm sure it was 4 something when I bought it. I can testify to the insulation abilities of this one. So if you look at the Blizzard camp, which has got the Hillyberg Solar in the thumbnail, or look at the Snowy camp, which has got the MSR Elixir 2 in the thumbnail, both of those snow camps were on this pad. Now, I think on both of those camps, it got down to -14 on the snow camp, and in the blizzard camp it was down to about -10. I think I could feel the cold coming through on both of those camps, and I didn't have a closed cell foam pad underneath. So I think I was definitely at the limit. I could feel the cold, but it wasn't enough to. You've got a leaf on your arse now. It wasn't enough to keep me awake, but it was enough that when I was awake, I was like, oh, I can feel a little bit of the cold coming through here. So in terms of the rest of the stats, this is the lowest R value out of the 3 at 5. It's 202 by 66, so it's nearly 20 centimetres longer and nearly 4 centimetres wider than the Bestway, boss. And it's 10 centimetres thick compared to the Bestway at 7.5, and it's 682 grams compared to the Bestway at 647. In my opinion, if you're buying a sleeping pad, and I don't know what these retail for now, but when I bought mine it was about 85 quid. I should have had a look on the website really at the cost these days, but this is, just to be completely blunt, a better pad in almost every way than the Bestway, but it is double the price. Although it is R7.3, sorry, R5 as opposed to R7.3, so that's the only thing it's slightly worse at. It's comfier, it's square at the bottom, which I prefer. It's only an extra 40 grams heavier or so, and it's much bigger. But if you give this a lie down, this, like I say, I've done maybe 8 camps on this now. This is genuinely, it's so comfy. Again, it's a bit French girls. There's no other way of recording something you have to lie down on. Do you know what I mean? In terms of bottoming out, you can pump. I used to pump these up too much. You know, I used to really pump it up because I was worried I was going to hit the floor in the night. What I tend to do now, as I said, is let the flex tail pump go as far as that can, and then I just sort of do 2 big puffs on top of that. And like now, I'm leaning down. I've got all the weight on my hip and my elbow, and I can't feel the floor in either of them. I can just feel the floor in my elbow if I do that. But I mean, I'm really giving that some there. If I sit up on it, I can just feel the floor. But when people say that on videos, like, oh, I'm not bottoming out, or I am bottoming out, yeah, it's because you've either not got enough air in or you've got too much air in. You know, you could fill this pad so it's bursting at the seams, and if you sit on it, you won't touch the floor. So when people are like, oh, I'm not bottoming out, yeah, that's not to do with the pad. It's that you've either got enough air in it or you haven't. If you are bottoming out, put more air in. And if you're not bottoming out, you take a bit out. In my opinion, you want to feel it. So you sit in the middle of the pad, and you want to just feel the floor through your arse, in my opinion. And then when you do, Neville's brought a ball, Nev. And then when you do that, when you actually lie down and put the rest of your weight on it and spread it out, it's comfy enough that it takes the shape of your body, but it's not rock hard. Honestly, this is really comfy. I've never tried a big Agnes Rapide SL, which is what everyone uses as like the sort of yardstick in this sort of category, but I honestly don't think it'd be that much comfier than this. I've used the Nortent for the past 2 camps, and now I'm lying on this, I'm like, I don't know, man, this is up there. So yeah, R5, 202 by 66 centimetres, 10 centimetres thick, 682 grams, and in my opinion, bloody comfy. Finally, let's get the Nortent Torv 7 pumped up. So the difference with this one is the pump sack is part of the pack that you keep the pad in. So you can see you sort of unravel this sort of dry bag effect. And then in here is the pad itself. And then just to show you, the bottom of that pad then has got a bit of Velcro on. You undo that, and inside there is the valve for the pump sack. So you would use this like the rest of the pump sacks, blow in, scrunch down, and away you go. But I find it quite, I don't know, I quite like it that it's part of, it's integrated. The other 2 pump sacks I never take with me, whereas this one I sort of do take with me because it's part of the bag, do you know what I mean? Right, let's get this one fired up as well. Now, one thing, seeing as I've had other caveats with the other 2, I will say this one about the Nortent. So you've got the same sort of valve system here again. So the first sort of layer of the valve, the first valve on top, and then exactly what's just happened is the problem that I've been finding. Let's just pop that back in there. So the first layer of the valve comes away. The second layer of the valve is then just fully opens the valve. Now I suspect this ring is supposed to be around this, but it keeps coming away. So this ring, I think, is supposed to keep this valve attached here. You're supposed to sort of get that around there and keep it on. Hang on a minute, let's see if I can do it whilst I'm recording. And then pop that on there. Okay, that's on there now. The problem that I have is every time I pull this, see how easy that comes off? I didn't put any pressure, well I did put a bit of pressure on it, but it just comes off a bit too easy. The problem with that is, obviously you might lose this, but the other problem with that is, let's just put that back on a second. Once that's on, so I had a situation the other night when I was up at the Roaches. I wanted to just let a little bit of air out. It was a bit too hard. I tried to open this first layer. Every time I did it, that happened. Even though I'm putting my thumb on it and holding it, even if you put that ring around it, it just comes out a bit too easy. I think this ring needs to be either a little bit smaller, or it needs a way of staying on there a bit better. The first layer of the valve is really difficult to get out, which is a good thing because it needs to be airtight. But at the same time, the same valve, or same style of valve, I don't have that problem on the Kilos. I know this is it's the first run that Nortent have done, so it may change, but I've noticed that it's been a problem every time I've used this. I'm trying to open that first layer, and it always pulls the whole valve out. So yeah, it's never leaked air, which is great, obviously, but it's just something that does my head in a little bit. Right, let's get this pumped up. So that's the Torv pumped up, 1 minute 18, which I'm surprised at because this is 1 centimetre thicker than the Kilos and it was 10 seconds less to pump up. Now, I don't know if you can see at the top here, I've taken the pump off, but the adapter for the pump has stayed on, and this has happened every time I've used it. When I try and remove this, it just pulls the inner valve out, despite my best efforts of trying to keep the inner valve on. That's that of course that happens when I'm recording. That's the first time that inner valve stayed on. Every time I've had to, the valve comes out, air escapes, I have to pump it back up at least twice, but that's the first. Maybe I'm getting the knack of it. Right, so this is also square. Just talking about the design very quickly, the materials feel a bit nicer than the Keyless gear. We'll come on to that in a second though. That feels a bit more plasticky, this feels a bit more homely. But yeah, it feels nice. I really like the design as well. Something about sort of outdoorsy stuff that's green and brown for me that I really like it. Right, let's get this one a quick test and a lie down. So the Nortent Torv 7. Let's get some stats up. So the name gives it away, Torv 7. It's R77R, whatever you want to call it. 198 by 68, so 2 centimeters wider, but 4 centimeters shorter than the Keyless gear. 11 centimeters thick, so 1 centimeter thicker. 740 grams, so it's about 60 grams heavier. This is a slightly different design. It's like vertical baffles on this, as opposed to the Keyless gear and the Bestway, which are like quilted baffles is my best description. You know, like a sort of Chesterfield sofa with the sort of buttons in, so to speak. That's what the other two are like. This is vertical baffles. But it's, as I said when I was pumping it up, the material, it just feels like a bit of a better material than the other two. Feels a bit more premium. It does feel nice, even like when you're not in a bag. If you were a quilt user, you're worried that like your skin would touch it, and it's sometimes your skin probably wouldn't feel very nice for the night on the Bestway, whereas on this it's absolutely fine. So give it the old French girl test. I think I might have just a smidge too much air in this, but it's really comfy, man. This and the Keyless gear, honestly, it's going to be tough to separate them. So let's give it a quick lie down. It's just comfy. It's wide enough. This is wider than the Keyless, isn't it? Yeah, 2 centimeters wider. Excuse me. Should probably edit that out, but I'm not going to. Yeah, 2 centimeters wider, but you can just feel it's nice. It really is comfy. Now, in terms of cost, I know that this was released on an introductory offer at 71 quid, or $71 was it maybe? I'll have a look on my emails whilst I'm doing this actually. But you can't get it at that price anymore. I think it's $119 now. If I just search Nortent, I mean, the last thing I want to do is go, you could have got it at this price. It was an introductory offer, so it was $71, but I mean the postage was $31 from Norway to the UK. $31 seems a bit much, but it did turn up pretty quickly. So $71, right? So what's $71 in real money these days? 71 USD to GBP. This is probably something I should have done before the video. 52 quid. So this was 52 quid. And cost does play a factor, of course. So let's just have a quick look at what the Keyless gear is now. The Keyless gear. So bear in mind, there's 2 Keyless gear pads that look very similar. You've got the AeroCloud, which is the blue one, which is the much higher R value. And then you've got the let me have a look for you. You've got the AeroCloud. Oh, the AeroCloud Elite is the blue one. The AeroCloud UL is the yellow one, which is a similar pad but much less R value. I think it's like R2 or 3 as opposed to the R5 blue one. So the AeroCloud will set you back $134. 134 USD to GBP is 98 quid. So the AeroCloud and the Nortent are similar prices now. I bought my Keyless gear definitely a bit cheaper than that. And obviously I got this at thinking about that, you know, $71 for 50 odd quid is an absolute bargain for this. I haven't had this in any cold weather yet, so I can't report on the R value being true to form. I know the keel ski, obviously I've had out in the snow, as I've said. The Bestway was slept on by my cousin on a concrete floor in May in Scotland, up in the Highlands, up in what was the national park called now? Whenever we went up the Merrick, what's it called around there? I can't remember. So it would have been cold on the floor, because it didn't quite get frosty, but it did get quite cold overnight. And he had no problems either. So the R value, I definitely know the R value of the Bestway is okay, because whenever I laid on it in February, I could feel the heat coming back. Yet to try this in winter yet, but I'm sure it'll be fine. So that's all three laid down. Just to run the specs past you one more time. We've got, come on Andy, right, your specs are Torv 7 is R7, R value 7, the keel ski R value 5, Bestway R value 7.3. This is 198 by 68, the keel ski 202 by 66, the Bestway 183 by 63.5. This is 11 centimeters thick, the keel ski 10 centimeters thick, the Bestway at 7.5 centimeters thick, and this is 740 grams, the keel ski 682, and the Bestway 647. In terms of price, this is now $120, which would be what, 85 quid or something like that. Keel ski is 100 and I've just had it up here, $134, which is 98 quid, and the Bestway is 40 quid from Amazon. Sometimes I think it might be a little bit more than that, like 46, but every time I've looked at it, it's on sale for 40 quid. All three, two of them are brands that people don't know that well, the keel ski and the Bestway. Bestway, again, are known for inflatable products, but not sleeping pads, so they're known for like inflatable jacuzzis and ice baths and swimming pools and things like that. So they know how to, what's the best phrase, they know how to keep air in things, they know the valve's going to be okay. And they're a massive company. You go on the website, they make loads of inflatable stuff. Keel ski are a little bit lesser known. Obviously Nortent are coming out as a really, really solid brand, but it's the first foray into sleeping pads. But I've used this twice now and had no problems with it going down in the night whatsoever. That valve is a little bit poo, but I've sort of got the hang of it, as you've seen. So the question is, which one would I pick? Which one represents the best value? Best value for me has to go to the Bestway. Yes, it's a mummy shape, so it's narrow, although that does fit in some tents better. And yes, it does feel a little bit cheaper than the others, but it's 40 quid. Like some of the sleeping pads you can buy for 40 quid and go outdoors, and places like that are like R2.3, R3. This is R7. This would see you through a winter camp potentially. Well, it should do based on the stats. So I don't think you can grumble at the value of this. And if you were starting out wild camping, or if you're looking for just one pad for one winter camp, I would get that if I were you. Best overall has to be between these two. And I actually think the keel ski may be slightly comfier, but not enough comfier that I don't think the Nortent wins it out at R7. The extra 2 R value, 5 to 7, just gives it the edge for me. On those winter camps, I was a little bit cold on this, but this will see you through sort of -5, well, like wind chill -5. If the temperature, let's say 0, down to 0, it'd be absolutely fine on this. This will obviously see you through a little bit more. I do prefer the design of this one, although that's not important with a sleeping pad. But I do think this one is a smidge comfier, but only just a smidge. I've seen people questioning the keel ski. In my opinion, I had those 2 bad experiences to begin with, but they rectified it straight away. So yeah, no issues for me. But I do think the Torv 7 just edges it. I can just feel, just touching the top, this just feels a little bit more premium. Now, they're about the same price these days. This being $119, this being $134, so it's about 95 quid versus 90 quid, so there's not much in it. But for me, yeah, the Nortent just pips, it just feels a little bit more premium. But all three would see you through a decent camp, and I think that's one thing that this video is about, is that they're a bit unknown, they're a bit unproven. It's not a Thermarest, it's not a Big Agnes, it's not a Climate, or it's not a X-Ped or anything like that. But having used all 3 of them, I think they're all decent, like, well, good enough to get you through a night and to be your main pad, especially these 2. Cheers for watching. See you next time.